he says, I want you to get that ball that Clint bought and tell him to sign it. Because I want to hang it in my office to remind me how big of a fucking idiot I am.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
All right, guys, welcome back to Table One Podcast. This is a very, Justin Young, co-host Art Parman. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. This is a different episode than we've done. Len Ashby, as you can see, is with us, but it is not a Len Ashby show. We're doing something we've actually been talking about doing for a very long time, even before he passed. But Clint Keown got in a automobile accident a few months back, and we wanted him on before that, and we didn't get a chance, obviously. But like, he has some of the best gambling stories in the world, and we thought there's no better person to kind of relay those stories on to the public than Len Ashby. So this is where we are, guys. It's kind of a memoriam, but like, I promise we're gonna laugh, and like, it's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. It's going to be a lot of crazy prop betting, and maybe try some of these things out after you hear about them, and just to grasp how hard they might be for the average person and why he got so much action.
Yeah, and for some of the people that don't know who he is and maybe know more old school, they compared him a lot to Huckseed, who was a legend of legends when it comes to prop bets, physical specimen. But like, I think Clint and him are kind of neck and neck as far as like the sickest prop bettors I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I think Clint, that kind of aura was with him. A lot of people had heard of him. Everyone had heard of him, but not a lot of people had seen why they've heard of him as far as his basketball talents, and were just unbelievable. He was one of a kind. Gambled just about anything that had a ball. He would figure out a way to gamble on it and beat you at it. So it was really sad to see him pass not long ago. We kind of grew up same kind of area gambling-wise in Indiana. We were around 22 or 3 when we met, maybe in 2006 or 7.
And we're about the same age. I think Clint and I were about the same age too. So yeah,
he like
43, 44, he would have been. Yeah.
First time I met him, I think, was actually at the circuit event in Caesars, Indiana, and he final tabled it, I remember. And we had met that week, and he was already trying to hustle me shooting basketball. And I remember telling him I would bet on my brother. My brother was a very good shooter, and shortly after that, I realized that I was not going to make that bet when I saw him shoot for the first time. Later that summer, probably was the first time I saw him shoot basketball, and man, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I heard about him long before I met him. I shot a lot of basketball back in the day. Like, I'm sure I've lost my touch, but like, I came in and I think I can't remember who I was talking to. I was like, yeah, like, I'm a really good shooter. I would bet almost anybody. And someone just like said, like, didn't even know who I was. It was like, don't bet Clint. I was like, who is Clint? He was like, it doesn't matter. If anyone named Clint bets you on anything, say no. I'm like, well, that'll never happen. It's fine. But like, I think it was like 3 months later I got to meet Clint.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I always say he was for a skill that he had, specifically shooting the basketball. I mean, it was a 1 in a million skill set that he had. He was a really bad hustler. I mean, literally, I used to tell him he was the worst. Just in that he couldn't help himself as far as being able to show off the talent. Someone, if he said he could make, whatever, 80 out of 100 threes, he could make 90 in his sleep. He'd always make 90.
It was never 81.
Yeah, you can lose it sometimes and then bet more later, and he never grasped that concept, I don't think. But I remember when we went to Florida for the betting limits changed there. We went from like, you can only buy them for $100 in poker.
Right. There was like a limit.
When they made it unlimited, me and Clint and Matt Humphrey and Richard Austin went down there for a couple weeks, and I walked in the Hard Rock there. There's 10-25 no limit game going, and it was early, and they had a seat, and I see Eddie Jones and Bob Sura are in the game. So I instantly text Clint. I said,
basketball.
I said, Eddie Jones is down here playing Bob Sura. I was like,
couple
That's like,
sharpshooters
I
in the
said,
NBA,
I
by the
have
way,
no
guys.
idea. Yeah, Eddie Jones was a 3 or 4 time All-Star. I think he won the 3-point contest.
Yeah. And yeah, Bobby Sura was a Florida State legend, and
Yeah.
then kind of fizzled in the NBA.
And he's kind of a legend of poker too. He ran
Yeah.
a game in Houston forever. He doesn't run anymore. But anyway, I sit down, I text Clint, I say, hey, get down here, man. We might get, some action here. So I sit down, and I was just kind of talking a little bit, filling Eddie out and Bob, and right as I'm literally saying, oh yeah, I got this friend who likes to gamble shooting basketball, Clint walks in, literally as I'm saying this. He walks up to me and he goes, hey, Len, what's up? I said, hi, here's my buddy. And Eddie looks right at him and said, what's your name? And Clint said, Clint, nice to meet you. He goes, I want no part of him. He goes, I've heard about you. And I go, what? He goes, yeah. I looked at Bob and I was like, I had to try, man. So, I couldn't help but try to give him a little action because from college three-pointer, honestly, I don't think no one could beat him really. Maybe someone would tie, or he'd be like a 50 coin flip versus Steph Curry, obviously, or somebody like that.
But it's like he's trying to hustle NBA players,
Yeah.
not just any NBA players.
There's only one, there's one guy. There was an old guy. He was like a school teacher, some part of Illinois. They did some news special on him once where he was.
Was it the free throws?
Yeah, he did free throws and he did top of the key 3-pointers. Made something like 300 in a row, something crazy. And
I remember.
And a buddy of mine was in this PLO game in Indiana, and this kid was playing, and he said he had a guy that would shoot anybody. And my friend Doc called me and said, give me Clint's number. This kid's running his mouth saying he'll bet on this guy. So I give him his number. He calls Clint. He says, hey, I got this kid here saying he knows this guy that will shoot anyone. And Clint said, ask the kid where the guy's from. And Doc says, where's this guy from? And he said, this small town in Illinois. And Clint just said, tell him that's the only guy I won't shoot. And he hung up.
Funny, that circle is so small of like.
I know. It's kind of funny. Back then, the word of mouth for gambling is kind of how whether it was poker or anything, well, that's Len, that kid, he plays PLO from Louisville. And then you'd hear about certain good players in poker that were from here, from there, and you'd have to literally just run into them to play. There was no social media. There wasn't any kind of stuff like that. And that's what kind of made his legend kind of grow, because a lot of people would come up to me like, hey, you know that Clint guy, right? Like, yeah, I know him. Yeah, have you seen him shoot or whatever? Like, no, but
You don't want to kill his action, but
right. That's what I'm saying. Eventually, it didn't matter. Because his action was killed. He killed it himself, really. And I used to tell people, if you've never seen Clint shoot, you should just bet him 500. He'll drive a half a mile to beat you out of 500, and it's worth watching. So, we would go to similar stops. A lot of times, Tunica, New Orleans, and out here. And we'd find ourselves sometimes in the same poker games or just in the poker room. And I'd see him, doing this thing at another table. He must have broke 4 different games one year at the Rio. Like, where the whole table quit the game and would go and bet him.
Go to
And I would
Total Fitness.
I just put my head down laughing, just like, oh, how many players? 6 players times 5. Okay, he's gonna win 3,000. So, and he would go and make some obscure bet. And the one really good story I have on him where this happened was at the Rio during the World Series. I told it on Twitter, and it's worth telling here, so I'll start it now. This is one of the first numbers I think I saw him shoot. He beat this kid out of like 30 or 40,000. He was a very good online player named Ron, who was a good shooter, and he was playing PLO with me, and he said that he would shoot anybody. So I introduced him to Clint, and Clint beat him quickly. They shot horse, I remember, just like anywhere on the court.
Yeah.
Clint beat him out a lot. And so that whole month he was finding people to shoot, and word didn't get quite out, I guess, enough to where these 2 guys who offered this bet to me, to Clint, I was playing PLO with them in the 50-100 game, and it was late. I remember it was like 1 a.m. And we were in the Must Move game. The main game had Keto Fam and Devilfish. And
no one's ever leaving the main game.
No one's quitting.
Nobody.
And we're in this shit must move game, and these two guys that are playing with us, I knew them from playing in Mississippi, named Big Rick and Kelly. And Kelly'd been losing like every day, complaining just how he just wants to bet on anything but poker. I mean, he was a very solid poker player. And so he just looks at me randomly and says, you got that friend out here that likes to shoot on basketball? And I said, yeah, Clint, he's out here. He said, well, I think I may have a bet for him. He's like, I'm bored, I can't win a pot in poker. I said, well, I'll see if he's awake. And I texted him, I said, get down here. He said, okay, I'm in the room, I'm half asleep. I said, well, you might want to come down here. So he says, I'll bet him that he can't make, I think he said 97 out of 100 free throws, getting his own rebound.
I was
like, oh,
that's tough.
Your toes different spot every time, different visual.
Yeah.
I was like, I said, I don't know if he'll shoot free throws. And I was pretty honest. I was honest with them. Like, I liked Kelly and Rick. Like, I just said he may not shoot free throws. I said he likes to shoot threes. I know that. So he says, I said, but he's on his way down. So Clint comes down, and he's like in pajama pants and tennis shoes. I'll never forget. He walks up, introduces himself. I think he knew Rick, didn't know Kelly. And Clint's giving his thing, and he's like, yeah, I don't really shoot free throws. And I'm just sitting there looking at him like, oh, I guess that means he does shoot free throws. And he said, I'm more of a three-point shooter. And, what do you offer me on that? Kelly sits there for a while, and he starts whispering back and forth with Rick. And then he just looks up and says, well, I bet you can't do 96. He changed it, he lowered it 96 to 100 free throws. And then I'll never forget it. He says, I'll bet you can't make 57 out of 100 threes. And still to this day, I give Rick.
That's the worst fucking line I've ever heard in my life.
I just thought, it sounds good percentage because the best three-point shooter at the time was probably like Jason Capono or something. Or he shot like 49 or 52%.
Yeah.
So you just think a game shooter, it's just different. Someone's going to be able to spot shoot better than that, probably. But
I remember the first time you told me about Clint, like 3 people at the table were like, wow, he's going to make 80 out of 70 out of 100, the best in the world. They're like pulling their money out.
They pull the stats out, they see like a good
even spot shooters, you're expecting like 60, 65% or something like that. But
he said 57, and I just kind of bit my lip a little bit. And Clint's like, well, I'm kind of busy all day the next 2 days. Like, if you want to do it now, if you want to bet something decent. And Kelly's like, well, I'll bet you. He either bet 20,000 each bet or 15,000 each bet. And I just looked at him and I just said, y'all want to go right now? And Kelly's like, yeah, this game's shit. Let's go. I got racks. I remember racking everybody up. And we went to this 24-hour fitness. I actually rode in the car with Kelly and Rick to the 24-hour fitness.
Were they confident?
And I just remember, and I wish I had the text to this day. It was so funny. Clint texts me, 57, ha ha ha. So we go there, and I replied to him. I remember he was giving me a free roll. If you kind of set him up a bet, I didn't really necessarily go out of my way to set him, but I got him down and texted him. He gave me like a $2K free roll in each bet or something. So I said, "Our free throw's okay," and he said, "Yeah, well, I think I'll be okay." So we get there. I remember it's late. It's like 2 a.m. and some college girl working. We come walking in. Kelly's kind of an intimidating presence. He's like 6'5", bald headed. He's got this leather jacket on, cowboy boots. I mean,
ready for a game.
So I just kind of walk in front of him, to meet this girl. I'm afraid this girl's not going to want us to be in there. I said, "Hey, can we use a court?" I was like, "We don't have a membership." I said, "Here's 100. She's like, "Okay, there's a kid in there shooting, but there's two ends." I said, "Okay, thing. We'll just be like an hour." She said, "Okay." We go in there. There's this kid shooting, and Clint says, "Hey, kid, let me see your ball." And he grabs the kid's ball. He spins it a couple times, takes a shot, and this kid's like, "What's this guy doing with my ball?" He looks at me and says, "How much did you pay for the ball?" The kid's like, like $30. He says, "Well, I'll give you 100 for it." He didn't want to use one of the house balls. Yeah. It was real slick, So he buys this kid's ball. So Kelly and Rick agree to let him warm up a little bit. So he warms up in 5-10 minutes. And me and Matt, Humphrey, and Richard are there also. And we're kind of sitting off to the side. And he starts the free throw bet. And I think we have a legit sweat on the free throw. We know we don't on the threes.
96 is tough.
He gets to like 90. He's got to make, I think he had to make something like 7 out of the last 8 or 8 of the last 10 or something. He makes it 98. He gets to 98, so he wins the bet. And so now he starts the threes.
98 out of 100.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, just
make it look good.
Just don't show him up. You know, like, I mean, I know he's going to because I know him and he can't help himself. And he starts out and he makes his first 15. And he's allowed to shoot it from anywhere. And he was shooting top of the key, getting his own rebound. So I hear Rick kind of going, like, he's across the court. They're sitting across the court. We're on the other side. So now he gets his own rebound, and he takes the ball, and he spins it to the wing, you know, like where he has an angle. He catches it, he turns, he banks it in. And I just bury my head. He gets the rebound, he spins it to the other wing and starts giggling as he's looking at Rick and Kelly, turns and banks it in. And Matt is dying laughing, and Richard is too. And I'm scared to death. Kelly's gonna kill me. I'm like, and all of a sudden I hear the cowboy boots walking across that wood floor, and he's walking right at us. And I'm just sitting there so nervous. And Kelly just whips out this cash, like $30,000, and he just wings it across the floor, money going everywhere. And he just said, "I've seen enough." He didn't even make him finish the bet. He didn't even make him finish the bet. And they just walk out, and Rick came over and says, "That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen." I said, "I know, I'm sorry."
All right, real quick. Do you have crypto just sitting in a crypto wallet doing nothing? Then you've probably never heard of Gauntlet. Gauntlet.xyz is a billion-dollar research company that manages risk for huge internet platforms like Uniswap, Arbitrum, Jupiter, and a ton of other ones. And how can they help you? They actually curate these things called crypto vaults. And what's a crypto vault? Well, you just put your crypto in, you get an interest rate. The interest rate depends on the supply and demand of that particular token that you put into there. It's kind of complicated, but their algorithms make it like 1,000 poker solvers are working on your side. And you get a return on crypto that was just sitting in your wallet anyway. Here, let me show you how it works. I've got 800 USDC here. I'm gonna put it into this USDC vault. The current interest APY is a little over 9%. So I'm gonna get that for a little bit, and I can take it out whenever I want. Now, as you can see, they have a bunch of different vaults, a bunch of different tokens. Do your own research on all of this, which one appeals to you, but definitely don't let your crypto just sit in your wallet doing nothing. It could be here earning for you. So if you've got USDC or USDT, which if you're a poker player, you probably do, you're gonna wanna have it sitting in one of these vaults earning something for you. So head on over to gauntlet.xyz/T1 and it'll take you right to the vault page. You'll be able to check out which one looks good to you. All right, back to the show.
So he wins this bet, you know, and I keep looking at Clint, and I'm just like, why do you have to do that, man? Like, just if you make 60, they may run it back, man. Like,
yeah, they might up it to 65.
Like, he's like, oh, no, they wouldn't have never bet me or something. So and the next day is real funny. I wake up, and I have a voicemail from Rick, from Big Rick, and he says, hey, Len, he says, do me a favor. He says, I want you to get that ball that Clint bought and tell him to sign it because I want to hang it in my office to remind me how big of a fucking idiot I am. So I text Clint, Rick wants that ball, he said. And Clint's reply in true typical Clint fashion was, I paid $100 for that ball. He's not getting that ball. And Rick still used to, when I see him out here, Rick lives out here, and he always jokes he always wanted that ball. And I was like, yeah, you deserved it, honestly. But Clint paid $100 for it. So that was one of my favorite memories. Just watching it was just amazing. Like,
Did Clint play in college?
Yeah, he was very good. He was runner-up Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana,
which is tough.
Which is very tough. I think Mr. Basketball that year was Coverdale, Tom Coverdale.
Oh yeah,
played for IU.
Yeah.
Yeah, he averaged a ton. I think he was in the top maybe 10 all-time scoring in state history or something. I know he was Evansville City ranked really high, which had a lot of good talent come out in all sports, but he was so good in everything. There's a good article written up. If you Google his name, you'll find it, where like the Evansville paper wrote a good article when he passed. He was all-state football, and he didn't play until his junior year. Never played down in football, and he was all-state his senior year in receiving. Michigan semi-recruited him a little bit, I think it said, to possibly play 2 sports. He ended up going to Evansville, and they went to the tournament his first year. He came off the bench, but he had a lot of issues with the coach, and then transferred to I think a D2 school in South Carolina, Aiken, where he averaged like 26 a game, and then just quit it basically. I think he played minor league pro baseball for a little bit also. He stole some crazy amount of bases, like 52 out of 56 attempts. The Reds signed him for AAA, but he didn't go, and that's when he was in gambling and poker and kind of just went that route. And he probably just saw it as just more fun doing that, and probably could make more money at it. I'm guessing that's what he kind of thought. So he went that route, and we were kind of traveling a lot together. We weren't that close the last probably 10 years once I moved out here, but I would still talk to him some. But he was quite the legend. He would travel a lot. He was in Florida a lot. He lived there in Florida, and then he had recently, like maybe 4 years ago, moved back to Evansville, was married, had a young son, and then 2 stepchildren also. It was real sad for their family. I feel terrible for them. But he'll definitely be remembered by anyone who ever encountered him. He would do so many crazy bets, just that were, like, how do you think of it, kind of thing. A kid called me from, it was in Biloxi, playing. He said, "Hey, I'm down here for this tournament. I'm playing PLO with Clint right now." I was like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "There's this tennis player in the game who was ranked," we looked him up, he was ranked top 300 or something.
In the world, like on ATP?
Yeah. And I don't remember his name. He's saying Clint just offered him this bet. He said that he would play him in tennis with a baseball glove. And he got to catch any shot that the guy would hit, serve, and then he got to take one step and throw it. and I started, he goes, and I'm just laughing. I never heard of him doing this bet or whatever. But I knew one thing. He offered it. So the kid, Matt Maggart was his name, he said, "Do you think he can beat him?" And I just said, "However much money you have on you, bet it. And then borrow that and bet that too." I said, if he offered it, just bet Clint's side.
But that's like a racket's like this long, and he's getting a mitt like this.
Well, but the angle is say even if it was John Isner serving, he could sit back all the way to the back of the court. He's never not going to catch the serve. So when he catches it now, he just has to throw it inbounds. And when he throws it inbounds, he has a good arm. He's a great athlete. So he's going to throw it in, and then he can kind of charge up some. And then once he's able to catch it, he still has to be so fast to get to each angle. Like,
not to mention the hand-eye
because
coordination.
a racket, like if you're running after a ball, you get an extra 3 feet. He's got to do it with a glove. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, he gets cut off.
But they had the bet. They bet, and the guy quit after 5 games. Knew he was drawing dead.
Jesus.
I don't even think the guy won a point. I mean, and I've heard somebody else be able to do this bet. I can't remember who it was. And it sounds more difficult than it is, but it's just the fact that he thought of this bet, and did it. I mean, he used to do all kinds. He played people in ping pong with a spatula. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I heard
really
the frying
good.
pan.
He was he's really good in ping pong. He was extremely fast, a runner.
Yeah, didn't he have some bets like running backwards, beating
Yeah.
people running forwards and stuff
Yeah.
like?
He did it in the hallway of the Rio, the guy. He took a guy out in front of the fountains at Bellagio, and they made everybody get out of the way, and they marked off 100 yards. And he bet this guy that he could hop on one leg 50 yards before this guy could run 100. And if he fell down, he loses. And he only did it for $1,000. And Clint almost beat him hopping on one leg, like just straight out. Hey, he looked like a jackrabbit, just bouncing down the fountain line on the sidewalk. It's just, he could do all kinds of stuff like that. And we used to go bowling a lot. He was a pretty good bowler, obviously. Just anything with hand-eye coordination, he was incredible.
And he just came up like 10 years too early before the camera phone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. That's another thing is there's probably no footage of him. I saw somebody on Facebook. A lot of people were posting stories where posted just a short clip of him shooting threes. I want to say he. I'm pretty sure this happened at a U of L game. You know how they have those like three. Somebody comes out of the crowd and draw a name. Somehow Clint's name got drawn. I don't know how he got his name to be drawn, but he won some prize where he had to make. And he just did it so easy. The crowd.
It was like a layup, a free throw, a 3-pointer, and half court.
Yeah, he had to do, I think, layup, free throw, 3-pointer.
Half court.
He just like kept shooting. He just like run around. I was just showing off like in front of this huge crowd. It's just so crazy. Yeah, I wish there was some actual film. I mean, man, I would have loved to have had the film of that. The Rick bet. It was just so incredible.
I mean, you painted a pretty vivid picture. I don't know if a film could actually top it.
Yeah.
Just a quick break here, guys. Are you tired of playing with players like this? Not this.
No.
This? Or this?
Or do you want to play with players like this?
Oh, wait. If you like having fun at the poker table, Table 1 is the game for you. We play high stakes, no limit, 100 blinds. And if you want to get into the game, it's actually super easy. We have a website, table1.vegas. You just go to the website, you click get a seat in the game, and fill out the form. It's that easy. It's your name, it's your phone number, it's the date that you're here, and I will personally reach out to you.
And it's only $5K minimum buy-in. Run it up at 2.5 and join us. But I think that's kind of the lore of him, because like I remember even thinking, when I knew all the things I knew about him, I was like, it'd still be pretty cool to just spend $500 to be part of one of his stories.
For sure.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But he would do it for almost nothing. Like $100, he would.
Well, that's what I mean. A lot of us did that. I mean, he was constantly trying to get you to bet on anything. Like, finally talked me into going golfing with him. I hadn't hit a ball, and I used to be really good at golf, and he's trying to bet me on every shot. I mean, we literally almost got in a fist fight. I said, I would be giving you shots 10 years ago. I don't want to hear it, And he just couldn't help but try to bet. And he got really good at golf quickly, too. As you know, you play a lot. It's pretty easy to go from like where you just start out, 40 handicap to like an 18. And then it's pretty easy to get from an 18 to like a 5. But to get to scratch is really tough. From like a 5 to scratch. It's very difficult. And I remember I played with him when he started playing a lot. He was probably like a 3 or so, and then next thing you know, I'm seeing him, and he's like, "Yeah, I turned pro. I'm just gonna try to." I'm like, and I know he's not gonna make it. It's just so tough. But he got really good. He was trying to money qualify in like some Corn Ferry events, whatever. But those guys are just too good.
Yeah, but
he knew it. But just the fact that he had it in him to try, like almost, he got really good at golf.
Just pick up the sport of golf.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's been golfing since they were 4, and he's like,
I'll
be a pro.
Yeah, I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
I've been doing this for like 18 months. Fuck these guys.
Yeah, I'll play with a baseball bat, you guys.
But he used to do just, like you said, just kind of you'd almost concede to pay to see if he could do something. And that happened a lot. In New Orleans, we would go there for their circuit event. They had some good PLO. I mean, man, he talked this kid into where they were throwing dollar chips in a cup holder at the poker table. Okay, it started in the main poker room. The floor got mad, told us we couldn't do it. So, fuck them. We'll go over to tournament room. They had like a ballroom. And this kid wanted to gamble on it. And Clint was happy enough to appease him. So they go, and we got in this corner table hoping no one would see us. And they put a cup holder on the end of the table, and they got like a rack of dollar chips. And it was $100 every time you made one.
Mm-hmm.
Within 15 minutes, he had the whole tournament room over sweating him. It was like a basketball game. We had 100 people around this thing watching him, and he was making them at 70%. This kid finally threw in the towel after 3,600. He lost like three. I mean, he's making 70%. He's throwing them like a disc.
Yeah,
he wasn't tossing it.
Yeah.
He was just like that, and it would just rattle around it. And I was just dying to laugh. The tournament director kicked us out, and it was so funny. And he used to do that stuff all the time. In that same trip, I told this story on Twitter. We were at a restaurant on Bourbon Street at some hotel, and it was me and Clint and Richard. We had a deck of cards on us, and we were flipping, waiting on our food, doing PLO flips, doing whatever. We get done eating, we're walking out, and Clint's like, Matt, I bet you I can throw the card past that line in the hotel lobby. Matt's like, whatever, how much? He's like 200. He just throws it. It just sails like a kite. Goes over. He goes, why do you just have to hustle me constantly? I give you 400 a day, you say on average. Matt's so tilted. He's like, don't worry. I'll give you a chance to win your money back. You know I'll give you a chance to win. So we get outside, and we're walking on Bourbon Street. We get to this stoplight, and he's got the deck of cards in his hand. And this taxi cab pulls up, and it's red. We're probably 10, 15 yards. It's windy. Mm-hmm. And this guy's got the passenger window down, halfway. Clint goes, give me 5 tries. I bet I can throw a card through the window, hit the driver before it turns green.
Hit the
He goes,
driver?
come on, how much? He goes, come on, you want it or not? And Matt's like, sure, you got it, 200. First, he throws it, goes over the car. Then the next one just sails right through and hits the guy right in the face. Matt just throws him 200, and me and Richard are falling on the ground laughing. I mean, it was just unbelievable. To throw this card through, it was this far, and it was windy. It was a playing card. This thing just fluttered, I don't know how he even knew how to throw a playing card. What is he, Chris Ferguson? Come on, man. And we used to do that stuff just all the time, where just little bets that you didn't even think were possible. You just paid. Yeah, I know you're gonna find a way to do it, but I'll pay.
I want to see it.
I want to see it.
I'm buying my ticket.
All right.
That's right.
The thing I love about all these stories is, like you said, he's not a very good hustler, make
Right.
60 or whatever.
I mean, he just
but
couldn't
the
help
thing
it.
is,
It didn't matter because
didn't
a lot of
matter.
people. Some of the things he proposed. The banking of the threes. It's tough to think someone I told my brother that. I remember my brother played college ball, and he went to Nike All-American camp, and he saw some of the best players ever play, and he's like, man, he banks how many? I said, well, he'll bet you 75, but let me just tell you, you can't win.
You ain't win that one.
He's gonna make 80 to 85, banking them in, and it's just like, man, it was something to watch. When I saw him banking them, it's so funny. You just don't have to do it that way, because there was numerous spots. You mentioned Huck, and he shot Huck one summer, and he beat him out of a relatively small amount of money. And the first thing I said to him was, "Why did you win?" Huck's a good guy, but he was friends with.
He could have got so much action down there.
Eric Lindgren. These were the full tilt days where they were just shoving.
All-time opportunity.
I mean,
He
it really
could
was.
have got 6 figures in a day.
Yeah, I said all
Easy.
you had to do was lose, and then say, "I don't have any money on me, but my friends do, and they want to bet on me." And we'd show up with a bunch of cash and bet him 100,000, and then just barely beat him, and then run it back until
they
they're
increase it by 1, make it 200K.
Run it back
But
until they want to quit you.
Yeah, that's right.
And he just, I don't think he ever kind of grasped that he probably did in some areas, probably on the golf course. He probably was better at matching up. You know how people are in golf. If he could shoot 67, he's probably not going to shoot 67 to get. But there's something about maybe the basketball, just kind of element of just showing off, because it is such an impressive skill that he had.
Well, I think the best Clint quote I've ever heard. It might have been from you. It probably was. You told the most Clint stories at the table when I've been there. Was somebody was saying kind of what you're saying, and he was just like, "Well, I'm not a hustler. I just tell people what I can do,
Yeah.
and they bet me that
Yeah,
I
they bet
can't."
me I can't do it. Yeah,
So-
yeah. He used to say that. He used to say that a lot
Yeah.
when he proposed bets, and someone was like, "Oh, I've heard of you always trying to hustle people," and be like, "No, I'll give you an option, and if you want to bet on it, then I'll bet it." And you kind of had to respect that.
For real.
At least being open to say that.
All right, really quick, guys. Phenom Poker is out now. It is live. If you want to get extra tokens, 100 extra tokens, and if you want to support Table 1, just go to joinphenompoker.com, and that will help us. Fill in your information, and you'll be on with us.
Tons of people on there, tons of action, especially until Art and I will run out of money, I think.
That's true. And we are doing a some sort of free roll. Anyone who signs up through our link, we're going to eventually reveal the details on Twitter, but if you sign up through our link, we are going to go all in up to 10 times at $100 no limit until somebody wins the $100. We might stack you 10 times and you'll lose 1,000 in this promotion, but we are trying to give away 100. So if we accidentally stack you 10 times, thanks. Thanks for playing. All right, join phenompoker.com. Now!
I asked him once. I was like, "Listen, when did you know you were this good of a shooter?" I was like, "You were a good player." I said, "But did you know you were this good a shooter?" And he said, "Let me tell you something." And he just grinned. And he said, "I didn't know I was this good a shooter until I started shooting for money." and there's such a level of kind of truth in that.
Yeah.
In that, some people have that kind of clutch gene in them.
Yeah.
I always remember a quote from David Faraday, the golf announcer. He does live now, but he used to be on PGA Tour announcer. And they asked him in an interview in like Golf Digest, they said, if you had a 10-footer for your life, who would you take to make the putt, Tiger or Jack? And his answer was Billy Walters. And people probably heard Billy, famous gambler, but he said he'd never played golf with anybody that he saw that was more clutch for the moment and for big money than Billy was. And Clint was kind of like that, I think. Like if it mattered something to him, even if it was $5, whatever, that he could rise up and he
got
was
his
just very
focus.
clutch, in that situation. You can relate some of that to poker too, some a little bit, but more in sports, I think kind of some people have that nerve in them that just they're immune to the pressure and they kind of rise up when it matters the most. So he definitely had that capability and skill.
Yeah, that was a big part of the Billy Walters book, where once he had like money on it, he could perform, but like otherwise, didn't really matter to him. But and then a lot of people are just opposite. Once the pressure's on, you just choke or get the yips or whatever. But the reverse yips, the money on it, reverse yips.
Or emotion. It doesn't matter. But certain people just when they're 100% focused, it's just impossible.
Yeah, he definitely had that. And Billy, I'd never met Billy, but I played a lot of poker with his first cousin, and he used to tell me all kinds of stories on Billy in regards to that stuff that were really good.
Yeah. It was a good book too, for those that haven't.
Yeah, I haven't read it full cover. I've read some whatever clips or excerpts or whatever you want to call it.
We did a show before I think we even had guests on. We did one of our first podcasts was about that book. We both had read it and we're like, oh, this is a sick gambling book. We have to talk about it. It may have got like 500 views or something like that.
It's not a very good
You want
episode.
me to tell the story I have on him? Or,
Yeah.
Well, at least it's kind of relatable a little bit. But he played a golf match against Fuzzy Zoeller, who won the Masters, won the U.S. Open, right when Fuzzy turned pro in New Albany, Indiana. And Garland Walters had told me this story. And so Billy meets him there to play. Billy's going to get shots. I mean, Fuzzy's
he's a
top
pro.
and he's going to give him shots. And so they're working out how much they're going to play for. Billy wants to play as high as possible because he can get people under comfort zone, So they go back and forth and whatever. And finally, they settle on something like 1,000 hole. And Billy wants to play bigger, but he's like, okay, whatever, let's go. So they get the first tee. And Fuzzy steps up, hits it down the fairway. Billy steps up first tee, and he just turns directly sideways, hits it out of bounds, and just says press. So he just wanted to be able to press and make it for 2K hole the rest of the night because the press stays on.
Yeah, lose the first one, fuck it.
And so he ends up beating him out of something like 31,000, a big amount for the years in the 70s or something. And fast forward 30, 40 years later, I'm playing golf at Fuzzy's golf course in Indiana with my friend Brian. We see Fuzzy on 15T when we're on 13T. Didn't think much about it. We get done, we go into the bar, and we're gonna eat lunch, and Fuzzy and his friends are sitting there. And my friend Brian's like, "Oh, you gotta ask him about the about the match versus Billy." And I go, "Dude, it's his golf course, man. I'm not gonna embarrass him. He lost like 30,000." He goes, "I just want to know if it's true." I said, "I promise you it's true." I said, "Garland wouldn't have made it up." He goes, "Yeah, you're right. You can't ask him." So we eat lunch. We're walking out. We're walking right by him. He just like blocks me out like a center in the NBA. He's like, "Hey, Fuzzy, man, really enjoyed your course." He goes, "You know, my friend here's got a story on you." He's like, and he just puts me on the spot. And I'm like looking at him like, "Dude." He goes, "Yeah, what story you got, kid? What are you talking about?" I said, "Did you ever play golf with a guy named Billy Walters?" And he just snap replied, "Yeah, he beat me out 31,000 in 1972. I was like, "What did he do on the first hole?" He goes, "I don't remember anything about that. I just remember he beat my brains in." And I was like, "Oh my God," it's like so funny. And I really feel like Clint probably has had moments similar to that, like, you know, just like hustle / where nobody really knows except the person that's been involved in it. And it's just kind of interesting. You know, you heard like Titanic Thompson, and he was like a legendary golf gambler. And they had a good book on him. And I'm sure there's so many people out there that have so many stories on Clint that hope they keep on sharing.
I even like superstars like Ike Haxton or whatever, in like 100 years, no one's going to know who Ike Haxton is. In 100 years, I guarantee you, a Clint story is going to make it through.
For sure. Oh yeah, I definitely believe that. Somebody at the table one night, it might have been Russo's European PLO player. He likes the NBA, and it was during the playoffs, I remember, and they were talking about how good Curry was. And one kid was arguing. I was like, "Nah, he's not good in the clutch." And they're going back and forth on it, and they just kind of look at me and was like, "Who would you take to shoot one shot from three, like to win the game, Len, or for your life?" And I just say Clint Keown. And he looked at me. This European dude, who? What? Who do you play? Who? What? And I'm like, I said, "Do me a favor." I said, "You travel around for poker?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, "Every poker room you go into, just ask for that name." And I said, "Then get back to me." And I wonder if that kid ever did that. You know, I mean, because if you go anywhere and you ask about him, or somebody in some PLO game or no limit game has lost money to him watching him shoot a basketball.
And actually, this will be great because I know a lot of people watching this have heard all the poker stories. If you've heard any good ones that we don't talk about, just write it up in the comments. Just write something about it, link to it, something like get more stories.
Yeah,
more
that would be good. A lot of
Yeah.
people replied to me on Twitter when I posted that he passed away, and there were some good ones. One kid said, "Man, my friend was playing with him, and they brought up ping pong, and Clint just looked at him and said, 'I'll spot you 19 points. Play to 21.'" And they just go directly to the ping pong table, and Clint beat 21-19. And he's like, he goes, "This kid was good too. I've seen him." And I said, "Yeah, well, I don't know."
And like, and inevitably it's going to happen. A lore is going to like attach itself to where all of a sudden the fish gets bigger, like through time or whatnot.
Yeah, right.
And I heard one not even a year ago that he bet some guy a small amount. I think it was for $1,000 that he could make 53 pointers out of 100 wearing roller skates.
Yes, he's done that. He used to shoot on roller skates. He used to shoot people
That's nuts.
on one leg. He would say, "I'll shoot with one leg, balance on one leg and shoot. Bet you I can make 70." And they're like, "Okay." they're drawn dead. He met somebody that was really tall. I can't remember who it was. And said that I'll let you stand 5 feet in front of me, and you can't wave your hands, but you can do anything you want. You can be this way, that way, and I have to shoot over you anywhere on the court, and I'll bet you I'll make whatever. He said some crazy total. And I'm telling you, he was it was a world talent for sure, and just about everything he did. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm sad I didn't have any personal interaction. Well, I guess one time he was at the table and he was sitting next to me. I think it was me, Ryan Tusick, and whatever. And Clint's sitting there, and there's like a balled up napkin or something on the table, and he just turns to Ryan and he's like, "Hey, 500, first one to make it in the trash can." It's like on the other side of the room or whatever. And Ryan just knows of him and he just laughs and he's like, "No,
Yeah, no chance." Yeah.
And then what'd he do?
And then he just drained it on the first.
Yeah, and like, that's what I said. Like, I'm pretty sure Clint was just like, okay, no bet.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
just drains it.
Yeah, that's my only.
He was such a character. You could talk to anybody. And somebody posted a video. He tried to sneak on and get through the gates at Augusta National. And it's such a funny video. He's talking to the security guy. He's like, "I left my phone." He goes, "Barry Rogers, last name." He's like, makes up some name. And it's just so fun. I could see it, he used to do all this clown stuff like that all the time. And it would work a lot of times. And then this guy's like, "I ain't falling for that, kid," And he's like, "What's the most you've been offered?" "I know you've been offered to get people give it." And so the guy's like, $5,000 the guy offered me. It was so funny. Buddy George, black guy from Louisville, like, I'm not gonna like single out that he's black. I'm just saying that he got him to these guys in downtown Louisville that play on the playground that are good players. They gamble all the time. And George's like, "I can get you down there and they'll shoot you for a lot, like a couple thousand each set, like whatever, first one to make 10 threes, something." And George got him down there. Clint wins first versus guy easy, and George notices them talking and stuff, and George just looks at him and said, "Lose the next game." "We're out of here." Clint says, "Okay." He dumped the next game and says, "We gotta go." I mean, George took him to the wrong area. It was no good. Like, I was like, "What do you think?"
They'll shoot you for 1,000.
Yeah, right.
If you lose.
Yeah, right. And I don't think they liked the way Clint was out there shooting, and it was not going to end well. So I'm glad he got out there then. It was funny. Remember that happening. But last time I texted him was like a year ago. He was just telling me he was back in Evansville and he was coaching basketball, high school basketball, and had a bunch of rental properties he bought, like single family homes or something. He was renting out in Evansville and just doing.
Retired hustler life.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. When he died, he was coming back from a golf tournament in Illinois. They said his friend was in the car too. He lived, but he had some serious injuries. I don't know him. I forget his name. But there was no alcohol or anything. It was storming. The reports just said he hydroplaned off the freeway.
But seriously, everyone that's listening, if you know who Clint is already, like, share a story with your friend, or, ask a story from a friend that's also heard from him. If you've never heard of him, just enjoy this podcast. And seriously, next time you go to a poker room, just bring his name up at the table. I guarantee you at least one person is going to be like, "Oh yeah, I knew that guy." And like, they'll tell some ridiculous story that doesn't sound true, and I promise it's true.
Yeah, I've had numerous people since come up to me and say, "Man, I've heard about that guy you mentioned on Twitter. Man, that's terrible." And his legacy will live on for sure, and he'll be missed.
One of a kind.
Yep.
All right, is that the pod?
Yeah, that'll do it.
Thanks for doing this, Len.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Enjoyed it.